Good morning, gang. Happy Sunday morning. Can you believe it's the last day of July already? Summer's almost over. All right, so let's get into the topic that is very important. I kind of talked about this briefly last night on the live stream, but I want to kind of get into a little more detail here with you. So, with everything going on with China lately, it's getting very heated. Let's put it that way. All right. Chinese state media, and I'm going to link this below. You can watch a video that was on Fox News here yesterday. Chinese state media, the Global Times, has basically come out and said that they are considering shooting Nancy Pelosi's plane down if she goes to Taiwan. Okay. Remember your World War I history. Archduke Ferdinand, maybe? Okay. That would be a declaration of war. And as much as I'm not a fan of Nancy Pelosi, I'm certainly not going to advocate for her plane to be shot down. Now, so what all is going on? Well, first off, a lot more than we're being told. And if you got to start putting puzzle pieces together, this is what I've got so far. So, yesterday afternoon, somewhere around 4 o'clock Eastern, Pelosi took off from California to fly to Asia. And one of the trips that she is supposed to make while she's there, and she's going to Korea and the Philippines and yada, 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 everywhere, Japan. She's also supposed to go to Taiwan, and speculation is Monday or Tuesday. Now, why do we think this is going to happen? Well, first off, you have the U.S. carrier group led by the USS Ronald Reagan that is moving into the South China Sea. Okay. Why would they need that? Well, because if Nancy Pelosi flies to Taiwan, they're going to need an armed escort to fly her plane into Taiwan. Where are you going to get that from? Chances are off an aircraft carrier. All right. Well, the Chinese aren't exactly happy about that. And so they have moved in a carrier group of their own to shadow the USS Ronald Reagan. What does that mean now? That means you could feasibly have Chinese planes and American planes in the same airspace in probably the hottest spot in the world at the moment. And yes, I know you could say Russia, Ukraine, but sorry, this is going to be the hottest spot in the world. Well, why else does this matter? Well, there was a 4-hour phone call earlier this week between Xi Jinping and Joe Biden. In that call, and again, you can see this in the video that I linked below, there's an interview with Gordon Chang. Xi Jinping threatened the life of Joe Biden on that call. Now, the interesting part is that the White House has not made public the transcripts to that call. All the other times they are. Why this one isn't, we don't know. Okay. Now remember, Biden's got ties to China. Hunter. Okay. So yesterday afternoon, at about the same time that Pelosi's plane took off, Biden announced he has been tested positive for COVID again. Now remember, he tested positive last week. They gave him a negative test Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and all of a sudden he tests positive again. Okay. And of course, the media is spinning this around going, well, gee, this is a possibility. And I'm not saying it isn't a possibility. Okay. It's just the timing is really strange that when Nancy Pelosi goes to Asia, Biden goes into isolation at the same time. Now, isolation's not his house in Delaware. Okay. That's already been said. So they are keeping him somewhere where he's under lock and key. Anybody say bunker? Okay. Could something happen? Now, the biggest concern that I have for this one is, since when does the Speaker of the House participate in international diplomacy? That's the job of the Secretary of State, not the Speaker of the House. Speaker of the House is supposed to be worried about making laws in the United States, not worried about what's going on in Taiwan. Well, now this kind of comes into the next fact on Pelosi's husband, Paul, and all these uh, stock trades he's been making. Okay, NVIDIA is the biggest one. That was the one that's been in the news. The insider trading, buying and selling stock options on NVIDIA, semiconductor company. 90% of the semiconductors in the world are made in Taiwan. So Nancy has personal business over there, even though she shouldn't be, okay, with millions of dollars worth of stock in the semiconductor industry, right after taking the vote on the chips bill, okay, semiconductor chips, and now she's going over there. If something happens and China goes to war in Taiwan, which is extremely probable, okay, is Pelosi going over there trying to influence those companies to move their operations to the United States, i.e. Silicon Valley, i.e. California, i.e. right outside Nancy Pelosi's district in San Francisco? Okay. You know, if you've ever been down out to California, you know, Silicon Valley is, I'd say, an hour's away, but if you've ever tried to drive in California traffic, it's 2-hour drive. So there's a lot of interesting things that are kind of all mingling together, sending a person who really has no business doing international diplomacy, who could potentially have personal financial gain by going over there, at the same time threatening the technically other superpower of the world, where that other superpower has threatened the life of the United States president, threatened to shoot down a plane. I mean, these are all jawboning toward going to war. All it takes, literally, is one Chinese pilot to get an itchy trigger finger, and we're in World War III, guys. That's all it takes. And as much as anybody says, oh, that'll never happen. Sure, okay. Let's take a look at many things that have happened over the course of history. All it takes is one person to set all this in motion. Going over to Taiwan has got to be the stupidest thing Nancy Pelosi has ever done. It's not her job. But she is putting at risk the world because of her financial dealings. Now, Biden's all tied into China. You know, a lot of people think, oh, you know, isn't Biden close with the Chinese? The Chinese aren't friends with anybody. They use you until they're done with you, and then they toss you out like yesterday's garbage. All right? The Chinese are doing the same thing in 2022 that Adolf Hitler was trying to do in 1939. That's take over the world. China's just doing it differently. They're trying to do it economically, with our money, mind you. I want to tell you this. 50 years ago, China was a third world country. The reason China has been built up and turned into another superpower is because of our 50 years of building crap over there and building their economy. China's never been our friend. Why the Western world as a whole has hitched their wagon to a communist country economically makes absolutely no sense. Let's think about all the years of the Cold War. How much business dealings did we have with the Soviet Union? None. Okay? We didn't get anything from them. You know, you go back to the days where, oh my God, if you brought a pair of blue jeans to the Soviet Union, that you were treated like a king. They'd give you anything you wanted for them, whatever it would be. And here it is, we're just handing the Chinese money so they can come over and take over the world. What Pelosi is doing is extremely dangerous to all of us. If she sets this off into World War III, we already know that the Chinese are participating in war games in Russia, war games in Venezuela. Literally, think about where they are, where China is as a whole. War games in eastern Russia. That doesn't make it too difficult to come in through Alaska and Canada. War games in Venezuela. Gee, that's a straight shot right up the highway through Mexico into Texas. This is what's going on. And Joe has COVID again. They don't want Joe's being taken out of the public eye because they don't want him putting his foot in his mouth. Okay, they're not worried about keeping him alive. I think most of the Democratic Party would rather see him fall down the stairs like Ivanka Trump or Ivana Trump. This is something to really pay attention to, guys. This is what we prep for. This is why you have your food. This is why you have your weaponry. Because, as I've said many times, there's only two ways I'm ever leaving the house. And that's if the forest goes up on fire, the Chinese come over the hill. Either one of those are high possibilities here going forward. Pinball out.